The setback you're living through right now is already pregnant with its opposite. The very weight pressing down on your chest is loading a spring you can't see yet, and that spring obeys a law older than your fear. You've been treating this low point as proof that something is broken in your life. By the end of this, you'll understand it's proof of something far stranger. The universe is currently measuring out your comeback. There's an ancient principle written into the fabric of how reality moves. The Hermetic teachings call it the law of rhythm. Everything swings. The tide pulls back the exact distance it intends to crash forward. The breath empties only to fill. The pendulum that travels 3 feet to the left is in that same motion, gathering the momentum to travel 3 feet to the right. Not approximately, exactly. And here's where it stops being poetry and starts being personal. Your life is governed by the same swing. The depth of what you're feeling right now is measurement, not punishment. The pendulum of your experience is being pulled back into a coiled position, and the distance it's pulled is the distance it will travel forward when the swing reverses. The people who break during setbacks are the ones who try to stop the pendulum at the bottom of its arc. They confuse the pullback with the destination. You've done this before. Think about it. There was a season in your life where everything seemed to collapse at once. A job, a relationship, a version of yourself you thought was permanent. At the time, you were sure it was the end of something essential. Look at what came after it. Almost without exception, the largest expansions in your life were preceded by a contraction that felt unbearable while you were inside it. The contraction was the launchpad of the expansion. This is the part most people miss. They want the forward swing without the backward one. They want the inhale without the exhale. They want spring without the bare-branched cruelty of February. The Lord doesn't negotiate. The arc is the arc. To want one half of the rhythm is to misunderstand rhythm entirely. So what does this mean for the thing you're carrying today? It means the heaviness has a function. It means the closed door is part of the geometry of the door that's about to open. It means the silence you're sitting in is the silence right before the orchestra returns. Your nervous system is reading this as catastrophe because your nervous system is short-sighted by design. It evolved to react to immediate threats, while the pendulum operates on cycles your body was never built to perceive. The pendulum keeps swinging anyway. The Hermetic teachers added something most people overlook. They called it the mental law of neutralization. They said that while you cannot stop the swing of the pendulum, you can refuse to swing with it on the inner plane. You can stand in the middle. You can let the outer rhythm complete itself, while your inner state holds steady. This is the discipline the ancients pointed toward. The refusal to be thrown by the swing. Because here's the harder truth. Most people lose the gift of the backward swing by collapsing emotionally before the forward swing arrives. They mistake the pullback for a verdict. They make permanent decisions inside temporary contractions. They quit the project, leave the practice, sell the position, abandon the identity, exactly 3 weeks before the rhythm was going to deliver them the breakthrough they'd been working toward for years. The pendulum was loaded. They walked away from the swing. You feel that, don't you? That moment in your past where, looking back, you can see you almost made it, where the contraction was so loud you couldn't hear the loading happening underneath it. Sit with that for a second. Now consider that this moment, this exact frustrating, deflating, confusing moment you're in right now, may be that same moment from the inside. The version of you a year from now is looking back at this week and seeing something you can't see from here. The loading, the geometry. The pendulum being pulled to exactly the position required for the forward arc you've been asking for. There's a counter-argument worth taking seriously. Someone will say, I've had setbacks that never produced forward swings. I've had losses that just stayed losses. Inside the framework, this deserves a real answer. The law of rhythm doesn't promise that the forward swing arrives in the form you expected. It promises that the swing happens. The pendulum may return through a different door than the one you were watching. The career that ended became the marriage that began. The relationship that broke became the self that emerged. The forward arc rarely lands in the same lane as the loss. The eye that's only watching one lane will miss the entire return. This is why the inner discipline matters so much. If you're white-knuckling the specific outcome, you'll miss the forward swing when it arrives in a costume you didn't recognize. The work is to stay awake enough to receive it in whatever shape it takes. The teachers of this principle were specific about how to do this. They said, understand the function of your setback. Feeling good about pain is denial. Understanding the function of pain is alignment. You're asked to stop interpreting the pullback as evidence against you. Try this reframe right now. The thing that hurt you this week. Hold it in your mind. Now consider that the exact magnitude of that hurt is a measurement of the forward motion currently being loaded into your life. Bigger contraction, bigger expansion. The universe does proportional swings, never small ones, followed by enormous ones. If what you're feeling is heavy, what's coming is proportional to that heaviness. This is mathematics, not optimism. And mathematics doesn't care whether you believe in it. A skeptical mind might call this magical thinking. A deeper mind notices that every cycle in nature obeys this principle. Seasons, tides, breath, sleep and waking, the expansion and contraction of stars, the systolic and diastolic beat of the heart pumping in your chest right now. Every system that sustains itself does so through rhythm. Why would your life be the one exception in a universe built entirely on swings? It isn't. Your life obeys the same law that governs the breath you just took. So what do you actually do with this? You stop making permanent decisions inside temporary states. You stop reading the bottom of the arc as the destination. You let the contraction complete itself without amputating the cycle. You hold your assumed end state steady on the inner plane while the outer plane finishes its measurement. This is the inner work that separates the people who ride rhythm from the people who get crushed by it. The discipline sounds simple. It's brutal in practice, because every cell in your body will scream that this time is different, that this time the swing won't return, that this time the pendulum has stopped. That scream is the test. Every initiate of this principle has heard that scream. The ones who learn to keep walking through it are the ones who eventually realize the scream was the last sound before the dawn. There's an old image worth carrying. Picture an archer pulling back the string. The arrow flies forward because the string was pulled back. The backward pull is the entire mechanism. Without it, there's no flight. You are the arrow. The thing that's pulling you back right now is the same thing that will release you forward. You can fight the pull and feel like you're being torn apart. Or you can recognize the pull for what it is and let the geometry do what geometry does. Notice what this reframe does to your body. The chest unclenches. A fraction. The shoulders drop a half inch. The thought that was looping in your head loses some of its grip. That small physical shift is the inner plane responding to the new interpretation. Hold it. The outer circumstances haven't changed yet, but the relationship between you and the swing has. That relationship is the only variable you actually control inside the rhythm. One more thing, the forward swing when it comes will arrive quietly, often disguised as a small opening, an unexpected message, a stray idea, a door you almost didn't open. People miss their forward swings constantly because they're still emotionally located in the backward one. They're so identified with the contraction that when the expansion arrives in plain clothes, they walk right past it. The discipline is also to stay awake at the moment of release. Stay awake. Watch the next 2 weeks. Watch the next 2 months. Watch what arrives in your peripheral vision while you were sure nothing was coming. The pendulum is already swinging without asking your permission. The question is only whether you'll be present for the return, or whether you'll have collapsed into the bottom of the arc. Eyes closed, convinced the rhythm has abandoned you. It hasn't abandoned you. It never abandons anyone. It is the one law that touches every life equally, regardless of belief, regardless of merit, regardless of how loudly the contraction is shouting that this time is different, this time is the same as every other time. The arc is the arc. The string is loaded. The release is coming, and when it arrives, you'll look back at this exact moment and understand something you can't understand from inside it. The heaviness was the measurement. The silence was the loading. The bottom was the launch pad. You were being drawn back. The hand on the bowstring belongs to a law older than your fear, and that hand has always let go. So hold your inner state steady. Refuse to let this contraction mean what your nervous system says it means. Stand in the middle of the swing while the outer world completes its measurement. The pendulum is already on its way back to you, and it's carrying everything the pullback promised. The string is at full draw. The arrow remembers where it's going. All that's left is the release.